Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. Welcome to today's video where I will be reviewing Love the Sinner by Avril Ashton. Before we get to the review, the first thing I want to say is some content warnings. I do mention them in the video, but I like to start from the beginning in case you need to, in case you don't want, so that you know right away. So I give two content warnings, the beginning and then in the video. So the content warnings I want to mention is that there is violence and mentions of sexual assault. So keep that in mind. Also, this book is for adult readers. It is, I'd say like a rated X, rated R. It's a mature read. I just want to mention that this is definitely a mature read. There are a lot of sex scenes. In case you don't want to read that, I do mention in the video, but I want to mention again in case there are a lot of sex scenes and it's very constant. So if you want to read a romance that doesn't have so many sex scenes, well, Love the Sinner is not for you. The next thing I want to say is that if you want a more structured review, I do have a post on this already written. I will link it in the description if you're interested in reading it. So that will be there. Speaking of the description, and my blog also, before I do that, if you are interested in my writing, consider subscribing to my blog. I do reviews, but I also share creative writing, and that's been very fun. So I do that. And as I mentioned in the description, though, if you are interested, definitely visit my description where you'll find a playlist, a bunch of playlists to all my series, including this one. Also, last but not least, consider subscribing to my channel and turning on notifications so that you're aware when I upload videos. And with that, let's get back to our regularly scheduled program with Love the Sinner by Avril Ashton. I have mixed feelings on this review. I don't know if I'm looking forward to it or not. I just kind of feel meh about it. I feel kind of iffy about it. I don't know what to think about with this review. I don't know how I feel about recording it. I really wanted to have a good answer as to whether I was looking forward to this review or not, but I'm not sure. I mean, I guess yes, because at least I'm reading. Even if I have a bad review to give, I tend to have fun making the content. So in a way, yes, but also, let me see. What is the average rating for this review on Goodreads? Oh wow, pretty high. It's a 3.85 average rating. So, oh wow, but it's only by like 2,821 people. A lot of people haven't read this book. Interesting. It's a book from 2012, so I expected it to be a little bit higher, but I guess not. Anyway, as you can see from the title, though, I'm reviewing Love the Sinner. Let's just start with the synopsis. I have little to say. I don't know what to think about this book. Wait. Let me give some content warnings before I begin. There is. Hold on. Let me see what I wrote for these, because I wrote this and I write content warnings. I just want to give some general information. I have not been giving it for my. I just want to give some content warnings, general content warnings that I can remember. There is some violence. There is also mentions of assault, of sexual assault. Let me see if anything else jumps up, because I do have something written for this. Let me see. Did I write others? Okay. Hold on, let me see. I'm just double checking. Yeah, I put in mentions of sexual assault and violence. That's basically what it is. It's mentions of sexual assault and violence. So keep that in mind when reading. I will not really be talking about this in the review, so nothing to worry about for me. I'm not gonna be talking about this, but I wanted you to know that before you started reading the book. So, yeah. Anyway, let's begin with this thing. Detective Gabriel Ashby has never looked twice at another man, yet the criminal across from him, the man he's interrogating, isn't like any other. Gabe can't deal with the sudden, intense need he has for one of NYPD's most wanted. Everyone close to Angelo Pagan ends up dead, with the smug gang leader standing amid the rubble. Gabe would love nothing more than to bust Angelo's ass and lock him up. So why is he seeing the bastard in his dreams at night? Angelo Pagan knows attraction to Gabe is suicide. He's resolute to ignore the chemistry until a police raid goes wrong. He critically injures Gabe, changing the trajectory of both their lives. Now the two can't get close enough. They settle into a forbidden affair, threatened by lies and betrayal, living on different sides of the law with no way of breaching the gap between them. With the authorities looking to make an example of Angelo, Gabe has to decide if it's really worth it to hate the sin but love the sinner. First of all, great job putting the title in the description and making it sound and making it look and make it kind of just flow. That's my first credit to the author. I thought that's great. As for the rest of the review, the prose is good. The prose is good. I like the prose. The prose is really easy to read, very accessible. You know, it's not difficult. It works to read. I read it in a day, mainly because I didn't want to read it more than that day. I kind of just wanted to get rid of it. So there is a reason for that, and I will explain in a minute. But I did want to just finish the book and say goodbye to it because I didn't really want to continue reading it. The story did have a good concept, but what ruined it for me was mainly the pacing, and the pacing ruined it for me, and the Instalove ruined it for me. I don't like reading Instalove. To me specifically as a reader, I don't feel like most times. Now, Instalove is not bad if done well. I don't think Instalove is terrible, but the reason I don't usually like it is because it's not always done to in a way that I tend to like. Most Instalove stories I've read are disappointing. The only author that has done Instalove right for me has been Laini Taylor. Any Instalove they write, I usually fall in love with, because I kind of get to spend more time with the characters individually before they fall in love. A really good Instalove by Laini Taylor is Strange the Dreamer. Strange the Dreamer is a duology, but we're going to start with the first book because that's kind of where the romance comes in. Strange the Dreamer follows Laszlo Strange, who is a junior librarian, and then these people from Weep, this mythical city they didn't think kind of existed, kind of come in, and they're asking for help to get rid of something that they need to get rid of something, and they need alchemists. And Laszlo kind of jumps in and wants to go because he wants to visit, and basically ends up being one of the Tizer Kane warriors secretaries and stuff like that. So he kind of just is there, right? I will hopefully be reviewing more Laini Taylor because I only have one Laini Taylor review. I want to review more Laini Taylor, you guys. I will.
I'm thinking I might be in a reread mood soon. Who knows? But basically, he we follow him as he goes to weep, and he starts having these dreams with this girl, Sarai, and he can see her unlike anybody else in the dream. Sarai is one of the 5 surviving children of the gods who ruled over Weep and terrorized the people by taking these people and basically making using them as their playthings. The women, for example, gave birth to to some of their children, and so on. And Sarai is one of the surviving ones, and the person that's taking care that kind of took care of them, Minya, uh, is basically wants revenge on the people for killing their parents, and she uses Sarai to terrorize them with their with dreams, because she can go into their dreams and change it into what she wishes. But it is the first time that someone has seen her in their dreams, and she starts having a she starts talking to Laszlo. But again, before they meet, we have their point of views kind of on their own, and we get to see them individually, and then they meet, and we get to see them as they gain a friendship before the love kind of comes in. It's not fully on Instalove, and that's kind of how it works for me. So that's kind of why it works out so well. The series Daughter of Smoke and Bone also works really well as Instalove because of the way it's written too. It kind of works very well when with her. So again, Laini Taylor is kind of like the only author that has done Instalove in a way that I, as a reader, enjoy. Most Instalove I read irritates me. So take that into account. That's one of the few things that was one of the first few things that ruined it for me, the Instalove. Um, because it's Instalove, I didn't feel like I got enough time to feel like these characters fully were in love. No there was no like I didn't feel like they had the romantic chemistry. I wasn't rooting for them because I didn't care enough about their romance to do so. And the pacing of the story didn't help. Now, it's arguably it was good. It was a good pacing, because it was good pacing. It can be argued, and I would argue that it is a good pacing for the genre. It is romantic suspense, and we have a gang leader and a cop, and they're both kind of living in life threat. They both live kind of like life threatening lives. Wow, that sounds really weird. Anyway, they kind of live with their lives on the edge in a way. Their lives are constantly in danger. So arguably it is a good pace for the story, and in a way it kind of delivers in that area, but not that much, just because we don't really get to see much of their jobs. Instead, we see most of the chapters, the majority of the chapters, they are together, and they are mainly having sex. It's definitely romantic suspense and like erotic romance. I will tell you that. It is definitely that. It's also, so in a way, it kind of delivers, but in another way, it does not, because of that. So we don't get to see enough time of them separately doing their own things in their jobs. Or, well, for Gabe, it kind of makes sense because he did get shot. For Angelo, not so much. I guess a lot of things that seem to happen mainly off page, which for me just annoyed me. But also, it can also be argued that it's a good pace, because since they both live in life-threatening situations constantly, their love, and this is also one of the things that can be argued that's good for Instalove in this book, their love is fast. They fall in love really quickly because they don't know when their lives could end, right? So in a way, both Instalove and the pacing kind of work for the story. However, just because it works as writing does not mean that you as a reader need to enjoy it. And as a reader, I hated it because the thing with this pacing is that things kind of happen really, really fast. So because things happen so fast, everything feels contrived. Um, so there are a lot of there is the theme, of course, of crime, police, and in a way even corruption, because they have an informant. Like Angelo has an informant, and it turns out to be one of Gabe's like trusted uh, police officers who's informing the gang and stuff like that. And there's that theme, but it's not even explored. It's just kind of like there. And there are so many other things that come up. There are themes that are explored to a point, but they're not everything is given enough time on the page. So what they end up doing is not really given enough time on the page. All we have is we mainly follow their love story, and everything else that is added is kind of pushed to the background and only brought in when needed. But the romance just feels contrived because there is maybe like 8 chapters before Angelo's like, oh my god, I love him. And this guy's like, yeah, I love him too. Like, they love each other. While they don't say I love you right away, it's like 7 chapters before they're like, they say that they kind of say to themselves that they love each other. And it is irritating to me. But what's irritating, and it is a problem I have with romance in general. This is not just this book, but I do have this problem with romance where sometimes a romance will have a bunch of different things added, a bunch of conflicts, a bunch of themes that I guess it might be trying to explore. Sometimes, and usually these range, actually they don't have much of a range. They're usually pretty difficult themes. And when these themes are added to the romance, though, they tend to be sacrificed for the romance. This is a problem I have with the romance genre. If you're going to do romance, just do straight up, in my thought process, if you're going to do romance, just do straight up romance. And if you're going to include themes, give them the time to be explored, or something I did in my writing. This is what I would probably, but this is a short story, so I didn't push to explore much of it. But there is a theme. I had a theme of a character running away from these people for specific reasons, and then they find her and they try to take her back, and she uses magical ability by accident and ends up in a place where she ends up meeting the guy she kind of has the person she has a crush on, and who she starts really liking, and spends a couple of days there. But I don't bring it up again. At least not in my first draft. I might bring it back, but I don't bring it up again because at the time, she's not interested in dealing with that right now. In my thought, she's not interested in dealing with that right now. She's more interested in the fact that she is with the person she has kind of crush on for some time. Not to mention, she is recovering. And so I didn't bring it up because I didn't want her to deal with it at the time. So that is something I did, but I don't know if that was for everybody. But if you're going to write romance, either write straight up romance without these complicated themes that keep getting added and added and added that feel like drama and contrived stories, and only to make the story more dramatic. Or if you're going to write themes, make it so that the themes, the other plot points of your story aren't sacrificed for the damn romance. Otherwise, the romance, at least for me, is not fulfilling as a reader. Romance doesn't feel fulfilling for me when you add other themes and you sacrifice these themes for the romance. That is one of the problems I have with the entire romance genre. And that is a problem I have with this book. So that is one of the things. It just gets sacrificed. So the story feels contrived because of Instalove and the pacing that happens too fast. The events just kind of come and go, and then events that happen outside the romance literally happen, and then you lead her up to the romance. That's it. And I don't like this at all. So while it could technically work for the genre, at the same time, it fails to please me as a reader. So that's my thing. Other things to mention is I found the characters specifically to be, as individuals, they seem slightly interesting. They're not terrible. They're not great. They're just there. They exist. They don't. They're not bad. They just exist. I don't know what to say about them. I think they were established well. Angelo as a character is definitely the most interesting one of them all. Gabe is kind of boring to me. If we're talking just establishment purposes, Gabe is boring to me. But if we're talking otherwise, he's okay, I guess. It's fine. It's fine. They're just fine. Um, they don't go through satisfying arcs. I don't feel like their arcs feel satisfying because again, everything feels contrived to me. As a reader, everything feels contrived, and because of that, I don't care. And as for the romance, since we were talking about the romance a little bit ago, other reasons I was not rooting for this romance is because of some problems I had. I found that there were some there was a there were some problematic aspects I found. My disclaimer, when I talk about problematic aspects or problematic stories, I am not encouraging you not to read them. I'm just mentioning them because I think it is important to acknowledge the problems. And also, this does not mean I am assuming what the author's intent was because I don't even go on. when I review these books for the record, I don't do research. I also do not look for interviews where they've been. Just saying. I just want to make sure you know that. So, I did have some issues with the romance. I think there was a lot of unnecessary jealousy between these characters, especially considering the timeline, which has been. It's hard to tell. I have a hard time figuring out the timeline of these books. I don't pay attention to much time, honestly. So there was a lot of unnecessary violence. I feel in with these unnecessary jealousy and unnecessary violence, and I don't mean the violence in sex where Gabe becomes kind of more of a dominant uh more dominant. He just takes charge of their of when they're having sex. He kind of just takes charge. I don't mean it that way. I mean there was random unnecessary violence because he got mad over something and like punched him or whatever. I think mainly on Gabe's side, I feel like there's unnecessary violence and unnecessary jealousy. um Angelo gets jealous a couple of times, but it's less often. When it comes to Gabe, there's more unnecessary jealousy and even unnecessary violence. There was quite a scene, I think, in this book where I'm not even going to discuss the scene, but he um he was extremely violent uh when over the fact that I think Gabe didn't Angel didn't show up in good timing for the whole birthday thing, but also he he became aggressive and somehow had sex in such an aggressive manner even though he was angry. And I found that kind of uncomfortable. So I, as a reader, found a lot of the out of their romance uncomfortable. So that was part of the reasons I did not root for them as a romantic couple. That said, it had an interesting story and an interesting concept. I just feel like it could have been executed and written better. Um, Maybe not Instalove. Maybe, and if you were gonna do that, maybe give us more time with the characters individually. I feel like if this book was longer, it would have worked out for me. Because if this book was longer and you gave the characters more time, maybe I could see it more. That said, I love the family dynamics with Angelo and his mom. It was so adorable. That was cute. I mean, she even brushes his hair. It was adorable. I enjoyed the family dynamics between Angelo's mom and also Gabe and Kane. I think his name is Kane. His brother Kane. So I totally enjoyed the the family dynamics between these characters. It was great. It was amazing. I had a lot of fun seeing their family dynamics. I think those were best well written. I may not have enjoyed them as a romantic couple, or somewhat like them as individual characters, I did love their family dynamics. Also, I appreciated the Latine dialogue, or like the Spanish dialogue from Angela. I think that was really great. I love how it was kind of added very randomly here and there, because sometimes I personally have spoken English before and added like Spanish, or vice versa, where I'll be talking to my mom and I'll be like I'll be saying a sentence in Spanish, and it'll be like I'll kind of be like, let's say I'm telling her about my book, I'll be like, estoy leyendo este libro y like, muy bueno. Like, I'll talk like that. I will do it. I would usually talk like that, right? So I will add English terms into my Spanish sentences the same way that Spanish terms were added into the English dialogue. I think it kind of works for me. I liked it. Other things I have to say, I kind of didn't realize is when I was trying to translate this to my professor, because I read this for class. I think I did it the wrong way, and um so if the gang's name in the book is Los Pescadores. By the way, if you take away the S, it would be Los Pecadores, which means the sinners. And that's kind of like what I thought it was at first. In my defense, I was really tired. I was exhausted when we were discussing that book. I was so tired because the time change has been kicking my ass. So, for reference, I am recording this in November of 2022. Just for reference, it is November of 2022, and 2 to 3 weeks ago, it went back, I think, to daylight savings time, where you get like that extra hour of sleep. Hold on, what? Hold on, you guys. Hold on. Oh, yeah, I'll call back in a minute. Okay, sorry. Anyway, so for reference, yeah, a couple of weeks ago, the time has changed. So you get your with the time that gives you like an extra hour of sleep, and I every time the time changes, I'll be exhausted for the next 2-3 weeks, because any sleeping schedule I had gets ruined. So I was really tired, and so when I was trying to translate that, I definitely thought it was the sinners, that the band was called the sinners. I'm like, yeah, and I think she had told me something like, I thought it meant fish, and I'm like, yeah, if you take away the S, it would mean fisherman though. She's like, oh, not fisherman. I'm sorry, it would mean the sinners. She's like, oh, okay, and I did realize though, sometime later when I was not so exhausted. When I wasn't so tired, when I was actually half awake and half myself, that Los Pescadores means the fishermen. So I appreciated the gang name and the story I can now tell about my mistranslation. Thanks, Ashton. I appreciate it. You have no idea. So those are all of my spoiler-free thoughts. If you have read Love the Sinner, let me know your thoughts. I rated it 2 stars. I think it had an interesting story concept, and it was written, and the prose was good. But I had too many misgivings about characters and romance, and yeah. So I just, yeah, 2 stars from me. I will say, by the way, one thing before I go is I was not prepared for reading this book. Now this didn't bother me at all, but there is a lot of sex. Again, this is definitely an erotic romance, along with like romantic suspense. This is definitely erotic and romantic suspense, but right? I think I don't have I don't think I've read erotica, but then again, if I did, I don't think I paid attention enough to realize it. I mean, I guess I guess 50 Shades of Grey would count for that because I did read it once, just out of interest. But I was not prepared for the amount of sex that was going to be in this book. Now that did not bother me. The sex in books never bothers me unless it's boring, unless it's written in a really boring way. It it does not bother me, but I was not prepared to be reading all that sex, and I just wasn't prepared. So if you are someone who doesn't like a lot of sex, especially constant sex where all chapters have at least one sex scene, I would steer away from this book. So, yeah. In any case, though, tell me what you think in the comment section. I'd love to discuss with you. And yeah, if you are going to do spoilers, I would ask that you keep it spoiler free. But if you are going to do spoilers, let commenters know that you are. Okay? I would really appreciate that.
Hey everybody, thank you for watching. I appreciate it, especially if you got this far, because this video was very, very long. So again, if you want some more structured review of this, you can see the post I have in my blog. It will be linked in the description. If you're interested in seeing my writing, subscribe to my blog. I do reviews, but I also share creative writing there. So it's a great time. If you visit the description, you'll also find playlists to all my series in this channel, including blind reviews. And consider subscribing if you like my content and turning on notifications. That way you're aware and you'll be notified when I release a new video. And with that, thank you for watching. And I'll see you next time. Until then, consume stories.